Hey everybody, welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe, Mary Kate Cabot, Ashley Bastock with you here on a Wednesday, recording this about 5:45. And of course, the topic today, sort of unexpected that this is what we'd be talking about this week, but it is something that has been getting asked about every single week, getting brought up every single week. We have certainly talked about it a lot on this podcast. Deshaun Watson. So he was back at practice today. His 21-day practice window was opened. That means the Browns have 21 days to put him on the active roster, or he just ends his season on the PUP list. But Mary Kay, again, something we've been monitoring, something we not entirely unexpected that this finally happened, but it did kind of catch some of us a little bit by surprise today. What I guess the question on everyone's mind is this, and I know you've I almost said you've written about this already. You're kind of explaining this. Does this mean Deshaun Watson is going to play this season?
No, it really doesn't. And I'm going to also do like a little explainer about what this might mean. But I think more so than anything, they are rewarding him for all of his hard work and letting him have an opportunity to go out there and practice. I think they are also giving him an opportunity to be side by side during the week, helping the rookies get ready to play. He's been very instrumental in helping Shedeur Sanders. So now he can be there on the practice field with him, helping him actually install the game plan while they are out there in practice, and they can talk about things during practice and off to the side and whatnot. So I think that'll be helpful for him. And, I just don't think that he's going to play because I believe that Shedeur will finish out the season. And if for some reason he doesn't, then I think that they will pop Dylan Gabriel back in there. So I don't feel like they really want to rush it with Deshaun, but this does give them an opportunity to see where he's at, to really gauge where he's at in throwing the ball to his receivers and to run the scout team, to see how he's moving and to see how that Achilles is holding up. So I think that's smart because he's going to be on the roster next year, and this gives them a pretty good idea of where he's at right now.
Yeah. So my first thought was, well, why would they activate him if they're not going to play him, right? So this maybe means, but then, as with a little space and time to think about it, I actually thought back to the Mike Hall discussion that we had sort of at the beginning of the season when they didn't put Mike Hall on IR, and a lot of people, what are they doing? Why didn't they put him on IR? And Kevin finally explained it. Like they wanted to allow him to practice. They wanted him to be on the practice field, getting that work in. He hadn't played football really at all since that injury that he suffered against Baltimore. So I think in some ways you could look at it in a similar way, Ashley, just in that you're going to have a chance here now to have Deshaun Watson on the practice field for at least 21 days and then maybe activate him. You get him on the practice field. Now, I would never rule anything out. I think we all sort of agree with that. You never say never with this organization, and certainly injuries can happen. And all of a sudden, here comes Deshaun Watson onto the field. But that idea of getting to actually see him on the practice field, getting to see what he can do, how comfortable he looks, I think that's as much a part of this as anything.
I do, and I think like the never say never thing is just because we've all lived and covered this team. And look, I always use the Deshaun Watson trade as the prime example of never say never. He was not coming here. The Browns were out of the running, and then they went back and made another run at him, and he agreed to waive the no trade clause to come here. So like Deshaun Watson is like patient zero when it comes to never say never with the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback situation, especially when it involves Deshaun Watson. But I do think like the Mike Hall situation to a different extent is a good kind of understanding or roadmap for their decision making here. Because I do think with somebody like that, like they're going to value Deshaun Watson's time in practice and for all the reasons Mary Kay just said. And it's just fascinating that we're here though. Like on the other hand, just because I think we've all said like at different points when he went down against the Bengals last year, I thought that was it. I really thought that was it when Jimmy Haslam made the swing and a miss comment at the owners meetings, which Mary Kay was there for obviously. And like, I don't know. Like it just clearly, once again, you can never say never with this team. Somehow it was at the end. And that again is another example of how anything I think can happen here.
Yeah. And I think like we've seen it with this football team, right? And we talk about this all the time. You can plan and plan and plan, and you can say, well, this is how we want this to go. We don't want to see Dylan Gabriel in week 4, but then crazy things happen, and Dylan Gabriel's your starter in week 4. We don't want to see Shador Sanders start in Las Vegas. We want to get more time with Dylan Gabriel. Well, then Dylan Gabriel gets a concussion and Shador Sanders is there. So I will say, Mary Kay, there is a part of me that even though maybe the intention isn't for him to play, there's a part of me that wants to just say he's going to play this year because I just feel like we've seen this too many times. And and obviously he has to be put on the active roster first, and we aren't even to that point yet. But it's so hard for me to imagine with the way this whole quarterback thing has gone really for multiple years now, but especially the last 2 years. It's just so hard for me to just completely rule out that whatever percentage you want to put it at, that 1% chance that Deshaun Watson is going to end up on the football field this year, just because they could have a plan, but we see over and over again, the NFL changes your plans a lot.
100%. There is totally a world in which he could end up on the field and surprise all of us, because we never think it's going to go that way, right? You never think that it's going to happen the way that it ends up happening. And I did not think that he would ever play football for the Cleveland Browns again. When he was down on the field and he was being booed by fans while he was crying on the field with the ruptured Achilles, that seemed like the end to me as much as I've ever seen an end of anything. It seemed like the end of the road, the end of the story. That was it. Roll the credits, right? It was over. But stranger things have happened. That's appropriate right now. But stranger things have happened on this football team. And who knows? I mean, they might get to the end of the season and he might be doing so well on the practice field and on the scout team that they might just say, you know what, let's put him out there in a football game and see what he can actually do, so we have some really good data heading into the 2026 draft in the event they draft a quarterback and they need some veteran to start for the first few games. Can Deshaun be that guy? I mean, these are all the kinds of things that have to be kicked around when you're dealing with a situation like this. So I don't think he's going to play this season, but I wouldn't rule anything out at this point.
Yeah, and I just like Ashley, 5 weeks is a long time. It's a really long time. It might not feel like it just on paper, but we've lived what 5 weeks in the NFL can feel like, and in a season that's going nowhere at this point, it's just, you never know. You just never. Again, it just goes back to this never say never thing, especially with this football team.
Yeah, like the unpredictable is always happening, and that's what makes it impossible to rule it out. Now, look, I think like basically strictly from a football standpoint, to me, on the outside looking in, it would make more sense at this point to live and die by these two rookies. Again, this is all dependent on the health of those guys and everything like that, those things out of their control. But with only 5 games left, I think you want to get as much as you can out of Shador Sanders. And if they do end up going back to Dylan Gabriel in some capacity, like that would still make sense to get a larger sample size on him. But it is fascinating. I don't know. Like, it would just be the most Browns thing ever. We've said it. It would just be the most Browns thing ever for him to start a game or two. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if it does end up happening like that.
And, I wanted to add to that, Deshaun, there was at one point on this football team where Deshaun wasn't in great standing with the football team. They didn't like the fact that he wasn't rehabbing here the previous year. And that was last year after he suffered the Achilles, and he wasn't around after he did that in October. He did not rehab here, and he was somewhere else like he was when he was rehabbing from the fractured shoulder. And that was not well received in the building. They thought he should have been here last year after he ruptured the Achilles the first time, and he did not spend enough time here. But after the second time he ruptured it, or he re-ruptured the Achilles, we can say, after that, he became sort of the model teammate and the model employee in terms of just the football side of being in the building and rehabbing and mentoring the young guys. So now he's in really, really good standing with this club. To hear them talk, you hear them talk about him. I mean, they speak of him in glowing terms now. And that hasn't always been the case. They've been really, really happy with his contribution. with how he's helped Shador and Dylan and how hard he's worked. And these guys, they think highly in this building of Deshaun Watson. And for those reasons, you just cannot rule anything out.
Yeah, and this is something we've talked about on this pod too. Like, I think there was this impression at times outside of the building that, like, oh, Deshaun's just off in his little corner somewhere, right? And he's just doing his thing over here. And like, that's, we've seen them and we've seen him interacting with these young quarterbacks. I mean, even today, and the short that we put up of him returning to practice, there's a clip of him and Dylan just standing there talking to each other and laughing. Like, he has been involved and he has been in that meeting room, and he, you know, he's not just off in some room by himself rehabbing this Achilles. I mean, there's certainly times when he has to do that and the team's doing another thing, but for the most part, he's involved and he's been around and he's been in Berea through this whole process. And I was going to ask you about that, so I'm glad you brought up just this idea of sort of how he's changed his approach in a lot of ways. And I remember Andrew Barry, I think it was Andrew, making a big deal about him rehabbing in Berea, you know, when we were at the combine. So certainly he's done the things he's supposed to do. And the other key point that you keep hammering home, Mary Kate, is like, he's going to be a Cleveland Brown next year. Like, this thing is not going to be over as much as people want it to be over. And, you know, just look at the numbers alone. So, and certainly maybe they renegotiate this deal again and push more money down the road, but just a straight cut would have 131 million dead cap. If they post June 1st him, and they're going to run out of those slots. They have a few guys they have to post June 1st. You only get 2 of those that you can designate before it happens. 80.7 million. So this cap hit that he's carrying is enormous. And I don't know, this is not a team with a ton of cap room to play with to begin with. So I think this should just remind people Deshaun Watson is going to be, unless some crazy unexpected thing happens, Deshaun Watson is going to be a Cleveland Brown next year. And that's when we'd start to talk about, could he actually start some football games for this team? Or could he play some football games for this team? That's when it starts to feel more realistic that it could happen.
Yeah, I absolutely think that there is a world in which could happen. And the reason, again, why I think that is because everything is up in the air in terms of their starting quarterback for next year. And right now, no matter what anybody wants to believe or think, if Deshaun Watson is healthy, he's the best quarterback on this roster right now. And next year, if they have a rookie that comes in, even if it's Fernando Mendoza or someone, there's a chance that at least for the beginning of the season, that Deshaun Watson still is going to be the best quarterback on the roster. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. Now, things haven't worked out for him here, largely because he's had these surgeries. He's had 3 surgeries. Before the 2 Achilles surgeries, he had surgery to repair a fractured shoulder. So a lot of people want to think that Deshaun Watson just became a horrible quarterback. And I maintain that these injuries, the fractured shoulder and the 2 ruptured Achilles, or at least the 1 ruptured Achilles that happened during a season, were basically what derailed his career here. That and his 11-game suspension his first year, which the Browns never thought he was going to be suspended for 11 games. They thought he would probably be suspended for about 4 games and then come back in and help the football team that year. So none of his seasons turned out the way the Browns thought that they would. And I think they still believe that he is a good football player. Now, nobody can say that for sure because nobody has come back from 2 ruptured Achilles. And he's a running quarterback, right? He's a dual threat quarterback. Half of his ability and value comes in the fact that he can move and run. Now, if he can still do that, then maybe he still has plenty left in the tank. But now he's 30 years old. He has not started a full season since 2020. 2020. Now, the only argument for somebody kind of being on the shelf for a long time and coming back and making something of their career that I can think of is like a Geno Smith, right? And I know there are others, but Geno Smith is someone that I would think of that sort of had a pause in his career, or just it maybe it wasn't just a straight trajectory to where he is now. But it's possible. I suppose it's possible, but it's going to be a tall order for Deshaun to try to come back and play good football. I don't know if it'll happen here. I don't know if it'll happen somewhere else, but I think everyone needs to be open-minded about what this could be.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean they have to be thrilled about it. I know that Browns fans, I think a lot of them want to be done with Deshaun, but the reality is with that contract and all this money they've pushed down the road and the fact that they don't have a quarterback, like it just puts it all in play that you could see him playing for the Cleveland Browns again at some point, even if it's not this year, maybe it's next year. You'll probably see him in OTAs. You'll probably see him in minicamp, see him in training camp. Like this isn't going to go anywhere. And to your point, this is something we've said on here before. When the Browns made this trade, strictly from a football standpoint, no one could point at it and say, oh, they're getting a bad quarterback. Like people thought the Browns were getting an elite. People thought the Browns were essentially selling their soul to get an elite quarterback. And unfortunately, not only did they sell their soul to get him, they didn't get the quarterback they thought they were going to get for various reasons. And I think we've seen too, Ashley, that there are some real structural issues with the way this offense is built. We saw it last year, and now we're seeing it again this year, that certainly Deshaun didn't hold up his end of the bargain, but there are a lot of structural issues that this team needs to address on this offense, regardless of whether it's Deshaun or Fernando Mendoza or throw any other name out there. They've got to fix this offense one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, think about the offensive line could look totally different next year, right? We've talked about that. Those contracts, you're going to have to do something. So that's number one. Number two, the receivers, what do you do there? Because obviously Jerry Jeudy has not performed like the Pro Bowl version of himself. I wrote a story about Jerry today and some of his frustrations and the salary cap situation with his extension. But I mean, you need to add people there regardless. So it's been tough goings. And, it felt like last year we talked about all the time, like that Kevin Stefanski and remaking this offense to try to fit Deshaun Watson. It obviously just didn't work, right? And Ken Dorsey here, they got him thinking he's called or helped develop guys like, Cam Newton and Josh Allen and worked with them and bigger mobile quarterbacks like Deshaun. And it never came together. So it's like hard because the only good most people have seen is that second half against Baltimore in 2023. And again, like I think with the fans and what they think, like there is this belief because Deshaun Watson is so disliked in general and especially by Browns fans. And like truthfully, obviously we all know this, but it's worth repeating to me again. Like it's not just about the football stuff that people don't like him. I mean, that certainly exacerbated the perceptions around him, but plenty of people have never liked Deshaun Watson because of his alleged off-field behavior. So there's that too. But obviously the not performing only added to that dislike. But people want to believe, oh, because we all hate him, there's no chance that he's going to play again. And it's just not the reality in the building. It's like this cognitive dissonance that is existing between what's happening in the building and what Browns fans think about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've learned over and over again. They don't really concern themselves a lot with optics. It's just not something that they are going to think about. And look, there is the wild card of we don't know what's going to happen on I don't know, whenever their last game is, that Monday after the last game. We don't know if Kevin's still going to be the coach for sure. We don't know if Andrew's still going to be the GM for sure. Like, there's a lot of things that have to play out too that we just don't know that could change some of these decisions, but we'll see. One other thing I do want to talk about, Mary Kay, Ashley mentioned this name, Jerry Jeudy. We did get a chance for the first time to really talk to Shedeur Sanders and Jerry Jeudy today about that dust up on the sideline. It sort of has embodied Jerry Judy's season. So I guess when getting a chance to hear from both of them, what did you come away thinking now about that sideline confrontation they had?
Well, they talked about it. Jerry told us that they had a discussion about it. So they kind of cleared the air. But I still think that these two guys need to get it together, get on the same page, spend time together, and realize that right now they both need each other and they need to make this work however they can. And I don't think we're blowing it out of proportion. We know that Jerry Jeudy is frustrated. We know that these two guys don't really have a connection right now. And it's hard to make your offense go when Jerry Jeudy isn't involved. But he's not the only one. Cedric Tillman's not really involved either with Shedeur Sanders. Now, Shedeur keeps talking about trust. He needs to have trust in his receivers. And really, more so than even trust, I think it's just timing. It's timing and chemistry and knowing that you're all on the same page and going to the same place with the ball and the route. I mean, that's basically what needs to happen. Everybody needs to be doing the right thing on any given play. And that's hard to establish when you just started working with the starters 2 weeks ago. That was a mistake by the Browns. They're paying for it now. Their starting quarterback has no timing or chemistry with the primary receivers on this football team. And if they don't get that figured out in a hurry, then it's going to be a long 5 weeks because they will play better teams than the Titans. They're probably going to beat the Titans, and that will lull them into a false sense of security with Shador as their quarterback. Then they go to Chicago and they play the Bears, who have a really good defense, and it's going to be on the road. They're playing really well, and that's going to be a tougher football game. And I think that Shador either needs to develop this timing with these guys, with Cedric, with Jerry, and with David Njoku. I mean, you just can't be throwing the ball to Gage Larvadan because he's your hungry dog. I mean, that's not going to fly. So whatever they have to do, they're going to have to do it. And I think it's going to take constant communication between right now. I would focus on Jerry, and I would join those two guys together at the hip, and I would be having them talk all the time, watch film together, sing Kumbaya, hold hands, go Christmas caroling together, do whatever you have to do to get those two guys on the same page.
You just gave the Browns social team like so many content ideas with that one answer there, Mary Kay. I will say, and some of this is, maybe I'm grasping at straws here a little bit, but when Shador was talking about that today, one of the thoughts I had is he has talked to us about how he's kind of a guy who learns by doing. And that's sort of when he's been at his best. So maybe getting some of these reps in, getting these opportunities to actually go out there and do it, and then sit down and go through the film, seeing him do it instead of seeing Dylan Gabriel do it or Joe Flacco do it. Maybe that'll help him kind of figure out some of the things he needs to do better. Because I think that, going back to Mary Kay's point there, Ashley, just not getting any of those first team reps. If this is a guy that needs to kind of learn by doing, this is kind of his first chance to actually learn by doing at this level.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's why I think like it's important that he finishes out the rest of the season, like to bring this full circle. Barring something unforeseen, all of these reps are very important for him and this team, and figuring out what he is and how they want to use him and what they're going to do next year. I mean, we already know it's an uphill battle at this point to say, can he do enough to show them that they don't need to look at these first round quarterbacks? I mean, they have 2 first round picks. It's going to be a very alluring option for them. But you need to see more of him in these settings, and he just hasn't had as much time on task, which we've talked about repeatedly. And again, it goes back to a 4-way quarterback competition was nonsensical and too much, and it was not thought out well, like in the sense that what we're talking about now, like you have a rookie quarterback who you drafted who learns by doing things. That is like his learning style. We all know about learning styles. Everyone has different learning styles. Some people learn auditory, they can listen and pick things up. Some people learn by doing, some people learn by seeing. Everyone's different. And he learns by doing, and then we're wondering why he's not further along. Like it makes sense that he's not, because he hasn't had those reps yet. So again, when it comes to like, should they start Deshaun Watson? Like you need to prioritize the rookies. Like barring something unforeseen, that is who needs to be the priority for the future of the football team for sure.
Okay, it's December 3rd, 2025, and we just did a Deshaun Watson podcast. Didn't see that one coming. That will do it for this edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Apple Podcasts and Spotify is where you can find us. You can also find us on YouTube, Cleveland Browns on cleveland.com, and our socials, Orange Brown Talk on Twitter, Orange and Brown Talk on Instagram, and Football Insiders, cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page to get involved with that. For Mary Kay and Ashley, I'm Dan. Thanks for listening, everybody.